and welcome to ET Auto. India, as we know, has set 2070 as the target to go carbon neutral. Towards that journey, the transportation industry has to play its role. And as we heard, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman during her interim budget speech, there will be a focus on making on the adoption of CBG for the transportation industry and as a blend to CNG, of course, initially, and it will be made mandatory. To tell us more about the journey towards greener mobility, we have with us Mr. V Raman, who is the CTO of Maruti Suzuki India, and he also heads the emissions committee at Society of Indian Automotive Manufacturers. Raman-san, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Tell us, this mention of CBG and making it mandatory, of course, in itself, CBG, carbon neutral fuel, definitely perhaps the best option for the internal combustion engine to have a much longer life. But at the same time, there are the challenges of availability, production, things like that.
Yeah.
So how do you see this adoption of CBG growing in the prospects and the uh, challenges in the journey?
Yeah, surely. I think this is it's very motivating that there is a very clear approach towards looking at all technologies for moving towards a sustainable future. And so we are talking about today in the Bharat Mobility Show in the ISTM conference. We talked about hydrogen, we talked about biogas and CNG, and we have talked about ethanol as the alternative technologies which are there for adoption. And I think there is a lot of potential available given the fact that India has to have a growth and also has to do it sustainably. And so therefore we need to look at all such technologies which will make it relevant for mobility to grow and also the economy to grow. So I think it's in the right direction. And to your question about infrastructure and ecosystem, obviously for any such energy source, there's always this requirement to set up. Having said that, the ICE engine, petrol and diesel, there's a big ecosystem available. The distribution of fuel is available. CNG has taken a lot of growth in terms, and that has grown basically from the government's view or their direction. The gas-based mobility is an important aspect, and so CNG stations are increasing, and we see that happening more. And uh, as Maruti Suzuki, we have many models where which are CNG, and the volume is only growing. And so we are quite happy about that. Coming to bio CNG, obviously, this is a waste to fuel, and so definitely there's a huge potential to harness the methane which is there in the air to convert it and into energy source. So it is a carbon negative fuel. So definitely blending of that with CNG, and then uh, you know going forward in this direction, I think it's a great
So
direction.
specifically, considering that among the energy options available for the internal combustion engine to tap, including hydrogen in the hydrogen ice form, CBG theoretically is the best option because it's a carbon negative fuel, right? So in that scenario, do you think they should therefore it should have proportionate focus, efforts, and everything to build the ecosystem?
Is definitely, I think the G20 announcement by the Honorable Prime Minister of a global fuel alliance or alternate fuel alliance, I think was a step in that direction, definitely, where ethanol is going to be got into focus, and there is going to be focus on CBG and CNG, and then there is going to be then focus on maybe hydrogen going forward. So there are many segments and many types of mobility. Uh, you know Solutions which are today being used by customers for freight or for passengers or for personal use, and so they will all find traction somewhere or the other. And the auto industry is working in many ways in these multiple directions.
Right.
Uh, so I think there is a lot of potential, and India will, I'm sure, find the solutions given the right policy directions, like what has happened today.
At the vehicle level, again, sticking to CBG, are there any trade-offs in certain, because if I understand, at higher speeds, there is a kind of a trade-off compared to your.
Today's engines and the way in which the CNG is integrated into the engines, there is no such issue about drivability or any such.
Even on the fuel efficiency part
There is
also.
absolutely, actually, from a CO2 perspective, it is much better because it reduces 25% compared to a normalized ballpark.
Right.
So definitely, I think it has its merits.
Maruti,
And from availability perspective, from a carbon neutrality perspective, it ticks all the boxes.
what percentage of blend is would you would you think would, should be recommended, or should to start off with?
I mean, I can't say that at this point of time because this is something which we need to understand what is the intention and the policy direction that needs to be studied. But today also there are pockets where CBG is today dispensed and it is being used. So the quality control is the important aspect of it, and as long as we have 95% methane in that, so obviously there should not be an issue as far as the vehicles are concerned.
Maruti has been a kind of a strong proponent of CNG in terms of the adoption across your model portfolio, not the entire portfolio, but I believe 3-4 models still to be available
Yeah, I
in.
think we have 14 models, if I
Mm.
remember rightly, which have CNG. Yeah, so that's a majority of the portfolio.
Okay, when do you plan to have it across the portfolio, or
We
maybe
are,
because of
as we are,
certain.
developing models and all of that, it is becoming a part of our powertrain strategy.
And each of these, without any modification, can also run on CBG, right?
Yes.
And also in terms of the hybrid, I mean, recently at CIAT, you also mentioned that now, I mean, the projection or expectation is that at the end of this decade, strong hybrids could contribute to a fourth of the passenger vehicle market. So does that also, kind of give you a reason for it to, for this technology to be implemented or offered in your some of the other models across the
I will
range?
not be able to say anything much on that from a product side, but from a technology perspective, I do believe that the strong hybrid has a great potential in terms of the CO2 merit it gives. It gives electric drive. It also reduces the overall carbon footprint. It's a sustainable solution, and I think Maruti Suzuki has brought it into focus with the Toyota hybrid system which we have integrated into our vehicles. So definitely, I think people are accepting that more and more,
Mhm.
and we are going to see traction.
If that is the kind of message from the customers, in terms of at the end of the day, the customer is the king and he or she should be given the option, and if they are kind of showing an kind of a preference for strong hybrids, doesn't it also kind of merit a case for, maybe from a policy perspective, offer a kind of so-called level playing field, to quote another industry professional, for all including hybrids, and let the
Well, I would
customer
not
take the
like
pick.
to comment on that part of it. I think the the government is well abreast of the advantages and what are the various technologies available, and deliberations are happening. So I would not like to comment on that. But purely from a technical perspective, I think all these technologies, whether it's, we are talking about ICE engines and improvement of ICE engines, we are talking about alternate fuels like CBG, CNG, and ethanol and flex fuel being incorporated. We're also talking about strong hybrids, and we're also talking about electrification and EVs. That EVs will also be part of that. Now we have a huge, segmentation, and India is a huge market. We still have about 30-35 per thousand. If we want to do, motorization in a large manner, we need to do it sustainably. So looking at various solutions, I think, is very, very important. So I think purely from a technology perspective, it makes immense sense.
And as you earlier once stated, India would be the last man standing when it comes to as a market for in
I mean,
ice
last man
vehicle.
standing in the sense, I didn't want to, it's been quoted like that, but what I wanted to say was that the ICE engine has a lot of potential.
Mm.
And so, and whether it is a flex fuel engine, or whether it's a E20, or whether it's a CBG or CNG, or even today now you see hydrogen,
Right.
these are all ICE based, also are being looked at, and so that potential exists. So it was stated more from that, and a
Mm.
hybrid technology also is using that. So it's not just that, so it is that there is going to be a lot of scope
So you
available.
are saying that ICE engine technology not as the way we have known so
Not we
far,
known it,
but
but
in
in
new
in
avatars.
a new avatar, it is
Right,
what is going to be seen. And
right,
so, therefore, the commitments of India and the requirements of India and the need of India are very, very different.
right.
And I'm sure that the government policy, the technology development, and the requirement of the
Mm.
customer, all of that needs to be kind of encapsulated and uh, find the common grounds and move forward.
Right. And lastly, I mean, if what was mentioned no, specifically regarding to CBG at the interim budget is any indication, policymakers can really play a very key crucial role, and perhaps therefore we think many of us, if not most of us, are uh, perhaps could be surprised by the longevity of the internal combustion engine technology in the coming years.
No, I think that again we should look at it from the intervention of technology, and we should not just be looking at okay ice. It's a powertrain technology which is going to have a different interventions. So whether it's a CBG or a CNG or it's a ethanol or it is flex fuel or hydrogen, or it is electrification of the ICE engine itself by using strong hybrid and two motor technology. So these are all which are there. It is not it is going to change. It is going to evolve over a period of time. It will evolve as the ecosystem for other
Mhm.
energy sources look at it. And I think the key point which we need to understand is that customer has to be kept at the center of it, and it has to make sense for the customer to use that product and technology. It should be cost efficient, it should be safe, convenient, and accessibility to energy source which is available. And of course, from an ecosystem perspective, the energy sources have to be sustainable. I think I would like to put it like that.
On
Yeah.
that note, Raman Sang,
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
There you heard V Raman, Chief Technology Officer at Maruti Suzuki India, and drawing a picture about how the progression of the internal combustion engine technology could take place, and with, of course, interventions from policymakers, there may be many more interesting developments in the coming years. On that note, thank you for watching this interview. Take care and goodbye.